pretty much everyone agrees. I think it would be awful hard to say that the church did not change. The Roman Catholic Church did not change after Vatican II, but there's a vigorous debate as to how it changed and according to what principles. There are two recent books I'm sure you're well familiar with. There's one by an author named John O'Malley and another by co-written or co-edited by Matthew Lamb and Matthew Levering. I've had the pleasure to have lunch with Matthew Levering and talk to him about a number of things, but in many ways, those two books kind of hold up two different approaches to interpreting Vatican II. You have O'Malley, who tends to see it as a liberalizing of the church, that the church kind of went into entirely new territory, kind of like Star Trek, to boldly go where the church has never gone before. Whereas Matthew Lamb and Matthew Levering have a much more traditionalist view, and they see the church as updating and refreshing, a la aggiornamento and whatnot, but it does so by returning to an older, perhaps more pristine history through ressourcement. And they even invoked Benedict, the Pope, as somebody to write the foreword or the preface to kind of say, well, this is the better interpretation. When you ever have the Pope write in your book, you're probably doing well according to Rome.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there are these
depending which Pope, because now there are two popes.
Right. That is very true. But my point is that even within Catholicism, there's a very large and vigorous debate as to what Vatican II meant and what it means for the church moving forward. Do you find that changing now? We're 40 years after, 50 years after Vatican II. Is that debate ever going to be settled? How would you assess that now, this side of Vatican II, this side of the millennium, really?
Yeah, this has been an ongoing debate, technically speaking, on the so-called reception of Vatican II, the way in which Vatican II has been received by the Catholic Church at large and has been understood. And I don't know if I think it was Hans Küng who said that perhaps a third Vatican Council would have needed to settle the issue that was left open-ended by Vatican II. So far, the different schools of interpretation have been battling over the significance of Vatican II. And I think that the Ratzinger synthesis of Vatican II having been a council of reform within or in continuity, that's I think the technical expression, which is a typically Catholic understanding of the dynamics of change.
It's a both and. It's always a both and, isn't it?
Yeah, both and. Something changes, but it never changes in order to drastically modify the overall theological structure. It's always a changing continuity. And I think that Ratzinger tries to affirm both the reiteration of Vatican II with regards to previous councils, and at some points the conciliar texts, they are quite straightforward in saying that we build on the tradition of Trent, Vatican I, the previous councils. We're not here to change. This is not a dogmatic council. This is not something that wants to change anything about the dogmatic outlook of the church. And yet at the same time, it's all about change. It's all about updating. It's all about learning in John O'Malley's terms, a new style, the same things said with a new language, with new words, with a different posture. For the first time, a council that doesn't anathemize anyone, and was a council that is friendly towards everyone, even to a council that has no enemy, a church that is presented as having no enemy around, but being the mother of humanity, or and so trying to grapple with both realities of the unchangeability of Rome, given its dogmatic structures, and yet at the same time dealing with the Catholicity of Rome that demands that the Church of Rome changes in terms of its accomplishing the mission of absorbing, embracing, integrating the whole world. So I think it's an inherent dynamics going on at Vatican II with a different balance. In my view, Camden, pre-Vatican II councils and pronouncements tended to stress very much the Roman side of Roman Catholicism, the dogmas, the authority of the church, the sacraments, the authority, the political nature of the church. Vatican II tried to readdress this in terms of rebalancing the same presentation, the same teaching, the same identity, but with less insistence on the Roman elements of Roman Catholicism, and with a more intentional insistence on the Catholic elements of Roman Catholicism. But the definition of Roman Catholicism demands that both Roman and Catholic elements be connected, and although there may be ways of connecting the two poles in different ways, Vatican I, the Council of Trent, stressed the Roman elements, the doctrines, the dogmas, the teachings, the anathemas, the sacraments. Vatican II stressed the Catholic elements, the friendliness, the embracement, the universality of the church. And I think that as a system, as a coherent system, although not a static system, Roman Catholicism can hold both, and actually needs to hold both. And so the debates within the same Roman Catholic theological circles are evidences of the fact that they may even debate, to what extent one element is juxtaposed or connected with the other, but the reality is that they are both necessary in order for Roman Catholicism to be what it is, Roman Catholicism.
Yeah.